Welcome to Unsilent with your hosts Dave and Brian. This is not another current events podcast. We are digging deeper, diagnosing, and discussing what's really going on today, how we got here, and providing observations for future generations.
Welcome to Unsilent. We're Brian and Dave. We'd love to hear where you think we got it right, where we got it wrong, or maybe we're halfway there. Give us a shout. You can do that on unsilentpodcast.com. You can do that on Rumble or other social media channels. So, Brian, anything in the news this week that history might be interested in hearing about?
Yeah, but before we get to that, I was just, I don't know how, somehow, did you know that your house is like pictures of your house is on the internet? Did you know that?
I did know that, actually. Yeah.
I'm gonna show you. I was just scrolling through Twitter and I came across this. This is obviously your
yeah, there we go.
That's not what I wanted. There we go. That's obviously the front of your house there with the.
I wish it were the front of my house. I wish I had that. Yeah, I would love to have that. I need to. I wonder if that's still up for sale. You know, I'd buy it.
The Star Trek Enterprise ship. When I saw that, I was like, I gotta show that to you.
I love it. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess the headline was I guess it was a assassination attempt, kind of, sort of. He didn't quite make it past the gate, but the metal detector or whatever. But what do you was it the White House Correspondents' Dinner?
It was a White House Correspondents' Dinner. It was in the basement of the Hilton, I think, the DC Hilton. And I mean, the scary thing about it was that all the guy had to do to defeat security was to book a room in the Hilton far enough in advance so he didn't have to go through security when they had this. So he just, okay, I'm gonna book a room there, and they weren't even patrolling the elevators, and so he just did you see the video? The guy's just zooming past, guns in hand, and I mean, he didn't get to the president, obviously, thankfully, or anybody, any inner circle people, but still the amount of times this happens, statistically speaking, there's going to be some real disaster here pretty soon.
Yeah. So a couple things stood out. One was, I think it was Clay Travis, the founder of Outkick. Maybe it wasn't him, but I think it was him who had just remarked, like, before all that, he was there and remarked before all the kerfuffle, how it just seemed like security was light to him.
Yeah.
He was like talking to people sitting next to him, like, like where's the security?
Yeah.
So there's that where, like, why is this a recurring theme? Like, if you look at Butler,
mm-hmm.
They kind of had the C team in, if I remember correctly, like they didn't have the A players there.
Yeah.
That was the only campaign appearance that CNN had live, like,
right.
That's kind of a weird.
Yeah, that is kind of sus, isn't it? Yes.
So there's and then you can't dismiss the Charlie Kirk thing like that.
Yeah.
So how is it this can keep happening in? I would assume we're one of the most secure countries in the world. I would assume that we don't have budget. I mean, we're $39 trillion in debt. Like, we're not pinching pennies on security.
Yeah, we're not lacking for dollars to borrow.
The resources to fund everything we do. So, like,
exactly.
We can't afford like 3 more people at $45 an hour, whatever it is.
Well, and I wonder. I mean, why we were just talking about AI before we started recording. I would guess that if I put the question to any of my AI tools that I use, it would come up with a security plan that would have included, hey, you might want to check the people that have been staying in the hotel before the thing happened, and you might want to put like a guard on the elevator or something, just some simple stuff.
I don't like it, but I'm pretty confident we have facial recognition software at the helm already for the government. I mean,
exactly. Oh yeah, we do. Yeah, there's no doubt.
Like, something seems off with that. Okay, but that's not that's like the secondary question. Though the primary question I have is, let's take the United States and let's take the president out of it. Let's say, like, pick a country. Just pick a country, not the United States.
Indonesia.
Who's in charge of Indonesia? Do you happen to know? I don't have any idea.
No, I don't know.
All right. Let's say there's a prime minister in Indonesia. I don't think it's a king. I think it's probably some kind of like prime minister or something like that, right? The prime minister of Indonesia has 3 now documented assassination attempts. Who knows how many undocumented, but 3
Sure.
that we know for
Yeah.
certain happened.
Yeah.
And there isn't a full court press to figure out any of them.
Right.
What would that tell you about that particular prime minister?
Well, that was going to tell you that the people that could do that should be mobilized don't care if he gets shot. They're actively, invested in
Let's
that happening.
assume that the prime minister has the ability to either put the throttle down and put more pressure on for more investigation,
Sure.
or to lift the foot off the gas and just let it go away. And he decided to lift his foot off the gas and let it go away. What would that tell you about the prime minister?
Well, I mean, he was crazy for one thing. I mean, it's just
Sure,
just in
sure.
terms of,
Literally his life in jeopardy, right?
yeah, or he knows that it's not going to be successful because there's been warnings in advance. I mean, you could make a false flag argument, around that too.
Sure.
That would
Yeah.
be easy enough to do too.
Would it be plausible that he would be afraid of what would happen if he did
And
put the foot down?
that's another possibility. Yeah,
Now, and when I say afraid, could be afraid of what you unveil. Maybe you find out your Secret
Sure,
Service is
sure.
involved, or it could be afraid that you stir up the hornet's nest and you
Yeah.
expose, I don't know, billionaires or whatever,
Sure.
Epstein class or the blob or whatever.
All of that is possible, and the reason any of those things and probably another 10 others are possible is because it makes no sense that something that you and I could figure out security wise, and we're not security experts, at least I'm not, or should have been accounted for. So yes, all of those things plus some more make one scratch one's head and say, something doesn't really add up.
Yeah, that because I listen, Trump's done some wildly unpopular things. We're in the middle of this thing with Iran, which is,
Sure.
I mean, I don't know what 16% or something like that. People
Yeah.
are for this, or if
Right.
you take out Lindsey Graham and that ilk, it's probably 12%.
Right.
He's done very unpopular things. Getting to the root cause of why you've had before this 2 assassination attempts.
Yeah.
Even his most hardcore adversary would be like, I get it.
Sure. That's easy to justify. Totally simple to justify. Yeah.
So he wouldn't face any political fallout. Nobody would say you're going too far with this. You would expect the person in charge to figure out who's trying to kill them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
What would be a big enough? And he's clearly not care. He doesn't care about dividing the country. There's no let's just bring everybody together and let's just move on. That's not his style. That's
not at all. I mean, it also I suppose the other thing is it could be his ego. He believes that he's like the chosen one. The kind of the Jesus figure from that drawing, from that graphics. I don't know. Yeah, it just makes
seems to me no matter, and who knows what the answer is, but whatever it is, it ain't good.
No, well, yeah, absolutely, yeah. There's no, well, that is certain because there is no way that 3 assassination attempts, and he's only a year and a half into his second term.
Yeah.
So that, it literally does make zero sense.
It seems baffling. Speaking of things that are baffling in the government, so Nancy Pelosi and a handful of others have outperformed Warren Buffett over the last 20 years in their stock portfolios by a pretty wide margin.
Ilhan Omar. Yeah.
Ilhan Omar, yeah. And that Crenshaw, he's done really well, and who's the guy from Arkansas? I think he's done really well.
Tom Cotton.
I think so.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that. It may not be him, and I don't want to cast aspersions on somebody who's not doing anything wrong, but point is it's not one party or the other.
Yeah.
And again, if you polled Americans and said, hey, do you think politicians should be doing insider trading? I don't know. It's probably a 93-7 issue.
Yeah. Nobody's going to say yes to that. Yeah. Nobody.
Right.
No.
Okay. Well, we finally made an arrest. I don't know if you heard about this.
No, I didn't hear about that.
We made an arrest. We arrested a soldier. I don't know.
I did hear about that. Yeah, I did hear about that.
He bet on Maduro being removed. He made $400,000.
Right.
and he was on the team of people who went and got Maduro.
Yeah.
They arrested that guy.
He's a special operator. 400,000 in Washington D.C. terms is nothing. I mean, that's like, a pack of gum, right? I mean, it's nothing.
I don't know if he lives in DC. I'm not sure where he lives, but okay. Best case scenario on the high end, a special operations guy. What do you think? 80 grand a year?
Yeah, probably not 100. Probably not even 100. Yeah,
No, yeah. Okay. Let's say it is 100.
yeah.
Okay, $400,000 windfall. That's 4 years salary. That's not life changing money,
No,
but
it's not retirement.
Certainly life improving money on a
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
high scale.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And the likelihood he would have more inside information to do this over and over again, pretty remote, I would say.
It's not going to happen. Yeah, it's unlikely. Yeah.
But he's the guy that we got.
And you see, the other thing I think about that one too is, if you look at Ilhan Omar's, what is it, her husband who had the winery, and they made like, 3,200% or something, you look at that scenario, they knew they were doing stuff wrong. This guy, he might have thought, he might have been naive enough. I mean, I have the ultimate respect for the warrior class, for the special operators. I've got the ultimate
special forces guys.
Special forces. I've got the ultimate respect for them. But I don't imagine at special forces training schools, whichever one they are, they go into a lot of financial management or into all of the legal ramifications of this and that and the other thing. So I could see the possibility. I could at least entertain the possibility that he thought he could get away with it. He didn't really think there's anything wrong because it's just a small amount of money, and he knew he was going to do it. And it's like, hey, maybe I could, I could see that being an honest mistake. Put it that way. Whereas all the rest of them that go unpunished, clearly not. Clearly not.
Yeah, and I'm not for or against prosecuting this guy necessarily. I'm for consistent application of the law.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, if you're gonna get this guy, okay, fine. He probably broke a law. I'm not second guessing that part.
Sure.
But if you're going to get him, like, I don't know, shouldn't you get the people making $100 million a year?
One would think so. One would think you should be able to, the ones that are, as you say, outperforming Warren Buffett without any of his insight or ability. Yes, exactly.
He reads 3 books a day to learn how to do this stuff. They're not doing that. I'm getting
no, I kind of don't think so. Yeah, it's well, and it's again why people, it's why our system is collapsing, because nobody has any trust that the people that we're putting into positions of power have integrity. There's no integrity there. It's just there's just no integrity.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier today. I was walking in outside and enjoying the nice weather, and I was thinking about this, like, we have all kinds of theories about how the fourth turning works and why it does what it does and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things I was thinking was, it seems that post World War II, let's say 1946, when you talked about, if I'm a politician in 1946 and I say I'm going to do this to help the Americans, my constituents, and other citizens who are not my constituents but live in our country, I would imagine that was widely accepted as like, if you do something good for Dave who lives in Tacoma, you'll be doing something for Brian who lives in Phoenix, like that. I'm really hard pressed to think of any issue where you can say we're doing X for Americans that would broadly apply. Like, everything now has to satisfy a particular kind of stakeholder, whether that be corporations or the government itself. Like, just, we've talked about, like, when any organization gets to a certain size, the number one priority becomes just keep that entity chugging along. Like, self-preservation of the entity takes priority. Now with all the stuff over the last few years, everything's like we're carved in these tribes based on race and sexual preferences, and like there's very few things that you could do for Americans that wouldn't benefit or be appreciated by one subset of the population and also piss somebody else off. Right.
And even if you find, I mean, the thing that gets closest to that are things that are are broad-based tax policy. So, you cut taxes in general, but at the same time you do that, it's always going to be spun as being for a group. So it either is for a group or it's going to be spun as being for a group. So like
Yeah.
the whole idea of not taxing tips, that's a pretty broad-based one. But obviously the spin on it is going to be all negative because Trump did it. Same thing with lowering marginal tax rates, any of those kinds of things. Even if it is fairly broad-based, it's still going to be spun as partisan and narrow.
So give me a little bit of grace here to try to explain this. Okay, so we get attacked by Japan, and then we're saving the world from the Nazis. All things. I don't know very many people who even look back now and say we shouldn't have done those things. I don't think that we were forced, whether we liked it or not, to all pitch in and solve a problem together, one problem.
Yep.
Right. But the way our human brains work is we respond more to negativity, or we respond more to negativity than we do positivity.
Sure.
Therefore, if you're a politician, you're competing against, somebody else. To get traction, you have to say negative things about that person.
Sure.
You can't say just positive things about yourself and your ideas, because that'll get lost in the human psychology. You have to say negative things. So maybe just decades of that negative, attack ads, and like they represent those people, and that's not what the average American want. Maybe it's just decades of that just pulls us apart. And maybe I'm not diminishing what Neil Howe and Bill Strauss said about the generations and how that plays a part. But maybe it's just as simple as we get unified for this brief fleeting moment, and then we go right back to doing what we have to do to get elected and improve status, and that's all driven by negativity, which by nature pushes us further apart.
And I think it's it's driven by negativity, and it's driven by short-term thinking, especially in America, because if we had, let's say we elected House representatives every 10 years and Senate representatives every 15 years or something like that, you wouldn't be in perpetual campaigning mode all the time. There would be some period, or president, so the president gets a very, very brief window on his first term that he's not campaigning for a second term,
Yeah.
And so what you're talking about, the negativity there is really the campaign mentality negativity. And so I suspect that, I don't know, there's other countries, I'm sure I'd have to think about it for a while, but that their cycles aren't so instantaneous. And we have as a country, we've got a reputation for being, super short-term thinkers, impulsive, and it's microwave oven. All the fast things were invented here. The microwave ovens, everything that makes things happen in an instant were invented here. Whereas, we talk about what is our strategic disadvantage versus China or versus any of the Asian countries. It's
Japan,
they're long-term thinkers.
Iran,
they're long-term thinkers, and
Russia, they're all long-term thinkers. Yeah,
and they've got a history, right?
Yeah.
No, I think that's true.
Yeah. Well, it seems that the fracturing, like we can't get the SAVE Act passed.
Yeah.
Again, it's a 90-10 issue.
Right.
We have no time for that.
Yeah.
We can't get that done.
Right.
Today, as you and I are recording this today, the Supreme Court ruled that gerrymandering cannot be done on racial bias.
Louisiana, yeah.
Undoing a previous thing where they said you have to do it with racial bias.
Right, exactly.
Okay, fine. And then I saw this thing of the this gerrymandering thing started with Texas, I don't know, 8 months ago or something like that. They were going to do a thing, and now California is doing a thing, and Virginia did a thing.
Yep, everybody.
Okay, so what is this? The Eastern Seaboard. So Massachusetts, Connecticut, Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont, Hawaii, Delaware, and New Mexico. All together, if you put all those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 states together,
right?
0 Republicans in the House, right? Now, so Massachusetts, forgive me, is 36% Republican. Connecticut, 42%. Maine, 46%. New Mexico, 46%. New Hampshire, 48%. Rhode Island, 42%. Vermont, 32%. Hawaii 38, and Delaware 42.
Right.
All together, no
Zero.
zero.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We got all the time in the world to make that stuff happen. We don't have any time to get the thing that's population actually the vast majority of it. So even when there are things that are broadly desired by the
Yeah.
population, there has to be other stakeholders whose needs are being met that prevent the population from getting what they want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of the other part of that, part of the reason that is the case is because everybody has become so good at manipulating the system. The system is so, is so complex. The simpler a system is, the harder it is to manipulate. The broader, the tax code is 70,000 pages or something like that. So it's no wonder that, Elon Musk probably has deductions that I didn't even knew existed, or there was all that complaining about Warren Buffett's secretary, not paying the same percentage that he paid or something like that. Well, it's because the systems are so complex. People have learned how to manipulate those things. People will take, by definition, human nature will take the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance is manipulating the system, and so therefore, in a fourth turning, when the systems have become so completely unwieldy and completely complex that it's very difficult to unwind them well enough to hold anybody accountable for anything, and so the whole thing collapses. So that's where we're at right now. That's what we've got.
Yeah, it's super complex. It's far removed.
Mm-hmm.
There's no immediate pain for not dealing with it.
Yep.
It's not fun. You'd rather spend time with your family.
Yeah.
It's a burden to have to get involved in, and then deal with all the ickiness of what do you do? You're gonna go run for office and deal with all the hassle that comes along, and having them attack you for a thing you did when you're 22 and a half years old.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's just it almost seems like it can't go any other way than things fall apart, and then something that so bad happens that unifies us, and we get right back on track, and then immediately things probably start falling apart again.
Yeah, when
just incrementally in small bits.
Yeah, it's complex until it isn't, and then when it isn't, then we get focused, and then we solve it, and then we organize it again, and we get subparagraph 5, and then it all happens over and over again. Yeah.
I'm not a Churchill historian by any stretch, but I think he was spot on when he said you can absolutely count on the Americans do the right thing after they've exhausted all other options.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's what we find happening right now. Well, we don't find it happening yet. We're not quite to doing the right thing piece yet, but hopefully we'll get there before things collapse too much.
So what's going on in I think we're like 114-0 against Iran now, because we've won, I think, 114 times in the last 5 or 6 weeks or 7 weeks or whatever it's been. We've got a pretty good record against them, but oil, as we speak now, is about $108 a barrel.
108. Well, and that by itself is kind of amazing that it's not 150. I mean, that's the thing of all the things that are surprising. It's surprising to me that the market keeps giving a pass to, all the president has to do is say, oh, we had, today he had a call with Russia. Okay. So that was the big thing today. He had a call with Putin. And it was a great call. It's every time a great call. It's every time.
I didn't think to say this, but I saw somebody did a post on Twitter, I think, at 9:29. I think it was Monday morning. Trump did a post citing, I think, maybe a Wall Street Journal or something like that Iran was they're crumbling, and they're begging us to come to the table at 1 minute before the market opens. I guess it's like, come on, guys, come on.
And I blame the market for being stupid more than I even blame Trump, because Trump's like low hanging fruit. All I got to do is say something. I mean, he shouldn't be manipulating the market like that. There's no doubt he shouldn't be doing that. But the idea that the market can't. I mean, these are brilliant people in theory that run the Dow and NASDAQ and all the, and these commentators that say these things that I don't, they're much smarter than me, but even I can see that oil should be at 150 a barrel. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. It will be soon.
I'm not a market expert by any means. I don't understand how Wall Street works in many, many ways. But I did hear somebody say something one time that helped me make some sense of it. And her point, what she said was, Wall Street has one job. Wall Street has a job of buying and selling stocks.
Mm-hmm.
They sell stocks to you.
Right.
Like anybody, if you sold toilet paper, you'd want to buy it low and sell it high.
Right.
That's the model. That's
economy.
What they do.
Yeah, right.
That's how it works.
Yep.
Stop. Like everything else is like how they do that, but that's what they do.
Yeah.
They buy stocks when they're cheap and they sell them to you when they're high.
Right.
So
yeah.
I would argue, Dave, they are being smart, because when he does that tweet, average people like our age who are, trading Bitcoin or whatever throughout the day, they see that and they're like, oh, I'm going to buy S&P stocks.
Yeah. Well,
and then the institutions are selling to those people at those high prices,
and they're making gobs of money. Yeah,
make gobs of money, and then another tweet comes out, and then the price goes down, and then the institutions buy when it's lower. Then he does another tweet, and the price goes up. The institutions sell to retailers. Like that's how it works.
Yeah. And so I guess the question is, when does it end? When does it end? And the only way I think it ends is, when oil gets to 150 a barrel, it'll end then, right? Pretty sure it's going to end then. And the problem is, of course, when it ends, then Iran's going to be stronger than, because they will have stared us down and come away as the victor. And, if they continue to, if he can continue to blockade the strait, which I still find that whole thing really just laughable. It's like, we're blockading the strait. No, we're blockading the strait. No, we blockade.
You can't block it. I'm blocking it.
I'm blockading your blockade. I'll raise you a blockade and call you as a call. It's like, my word. I just, it's just hard to fathom.
So this is where I don't understand how most of the stuff, where you understand the stuff but way better than I do. How does it work when China's like, we're just gonna like protect the ships because we need the oil?
Yeah.
You're not blockading us. I don't care who you're like. We don't need to be. We don't have to be blockaded. We've decided we don't want to be.
Yeah.
And we're gonna what do they call it, where they guide them through or whatever.
Escort them basically.
Yeah. Escort them. Yeah. They escort them through, and they're like, okay, you want to shoot a Chinese ship? Knock yourself out. Let's see how that goes.
I'll tell you my theory, and it's just a theory. I can't prove it, but I think China is a whole lot weaker than most of us in the West think they are. I think they are one of the things we know from history now is that, like, when you and I grew up, the Soviet Union,
decades apart, obviously,
almost a century. But when we grew up, the Soviet Union was a peer. They were a peer of ours. They were a rival. Right. They were, a MiG versus an F-14. It's a peer encounter. Yep. Now, when the Soviet Union fell, we learned that, like, their military was basically tin cans strung together with baling wire, and they had nothing. They were, we built them up to be 10 times stronger than they actually were. I have this sense. So China has everything going wrong for China. Their entire economy was based on selling land that the government owned during the Mao era, but they're running out of land to sell. And and they're going more I just don't think they have it in them to. In our military, regardless of where we send the military to do weird things, our military is still way beyond where China is. And China being so dependent on on oil from the Middle East, their entire war machine and economy comes collapsing. They're so big that their entire economy will come collapsing down potentially, I think, if these. So I just don't think they have the president talks about cards to play and this kind of thing. Why haven't we seen more bluster out of China? Because we haven't seen hardly any bluster at all. They'll say things like we need to be careful about all that kind of stuff. But
they had a surveillance ship parked there for a couple of weeks, if I remember right. Like they were like one of those things that could, like sonar or radar or whatever. Like they had something, and they were sending information to Iran, presumably.
Yeah, and they were, in theory, they've loaded up some ships that were going back to Iran that we interdicted, that had weapons on them, and we didn't like that very much. But I just don't think they've got the. And of course I could be wrong. I'm not an expert, but at least the experts I read and the things that I understand about China, I just think they're far weaker than we give them credit for.
Yeah, I've heard a few things about China. One of the things that was like this was kind of thrown out as a plausible theory, but or a hypothesis or speculation, not anything backed with substantial data, because you can't get data out of China.
Yeah, right.
But they were even speculating that they don't really have 1.4 billion people or whatever. Maybe they only have like 800 million people. Maybe that we don't even know, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at their they had the one child policy for what, 5 decades or 3 decades or something like that. So their population is plummeting.
Yeah.
And the real estate market over there, people in China were buying third and fourth homes and never setting foot in it,
right?
Just because of the speculative price, and they'd buy it for 300,000 yuan or whatever, and then they would sell it 6 months later for 400,000 yuan, and they'd make that profit.
Yeah.
Well, that all collapsed, completely collapsed.
Yep.
And then I heard somebody. Again, there's no way to know any of this stuff, because even from our own government, we can't find things out.
Right.
But they were speculating that we use a third of our Patriot missile stockpile just in that 4-week bombing thing with Iran.
Right.
So let me throw this at you. What if they're all full of crap? What if, obviously we have we have a lot of nukes. Russia has a lot of nukes. Sure. China has a lot of nukes. I'm not talking about that part.
Yeah.
Take the nukes out of the equation. What if, aside from that, we're all full of crap on our capabilities, and we have great technology, but we don't have the volume. We don't. We only have 2,000 Patriot missiles. They're kick ass. Don't get me wrong, but we only got so many of them. We just use a third of them. What if they're all full of crap, Dave?
Well, yeah, that's dangerous, because if everybody knew what everybody else had and it was accurate, at least then you would know not to mess with them. But if you think, if anybody overestimates or underestimates what they or their adversary has, that's a recipe for disaster, because somebody's going to say, oh, well, this is the situation. It turns out not to be the situation. You end up with Shanghai being nuked or Tennessee being nuked or whatever. It's just that
is one of the possible problems, is if we are all blustering about our capabilities aside from nukes, and it's exposed that we really don't have a whole lot else.
All we got is nukes.
All you have is a hammer now, and everything's going to be a nail, including whatever.
Exactly. And I would tend to think it's closer to that than it is to we know what's going on, because even with the U.S., because to hear Pete Hegseth talk about we've got more, but where did they come from? Did you conjure them? I mean, where did they come from?
England sent a ship to the strait that they had to turn around like halfway there, because
turn around and go back.
Like when I say everybody, I mean everybody. What if all these governments are just full of crap and they really don't have any of the? It's all just like all bark and no bite.
Right. Well, and I will say though, if that is the case, then the guy who is the most well positioned to take advantage of that is Trump, because he's nothing but bark. I mean, he's
right.
More than just bark, because obviously he's mobilized the military, but he's the master of that game.
Yeah, but he's mobilized against what we perceive to be soft targets. I would argue that he thought Iran was going to be a softer target than it's turning out to be.
Yes, for sure.
And Venezuela, like what are they going to do?
Yeah, Venezuela. Exactly.
Or in your blustering at Canada and you're blustering at France. Like, what are they going to do? I mean, so it's easy to be the big talker when you're picking on a 4-year-old.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, it's not like Denmark's going to invade. It's like that's not
right.
I know. No, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's the danger of this, and it could be that's the trigger event, is something where somebody underestimates or overestimates in some geostrategic way, and that's what starts the next war in some place we don't even think about today. Some country, one of the stands, if you will, or I mean, there's just all these. I was listening to a podcast about what's going on in Georgia, the country of Georgia, not the state of Georgia, and I've been interested in that for a long time. And talking about the Russia's way of kind of manipulating what's happening in Georgia still. And I mean, so there's these hot points like that, like the country right to the north of it, South Ossetia. There's all of these hot spots that most Americans don't think about, don't know about, that could blow up. I mean, right up Black Sea, Caucasus Mountains, it's Eurasia and the Middle East, and it's the whole thing. And so, I mean, there's lots of possibilities.
Yeah, they have a fairly decent track record of really gnarly things that affect the whole world starting in those areas.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's where
going back to not Xerxes, who was the other Persian, Cyrus the Great.
Cyrus the Great. Yeah.
Not too many hundreds of miles from where you're talking about. Really bad things that changed world history happened.
You had the Babylonians, you had the Persians, you had the Medes, you had all that stuff happened in that spot of the world for centuries.
Yeah.
So maybe now it'll happen.
All right. Well, did you remember your AI topic, or do you want to talk about
yes. This is actually, I was thinking about this earlier today. This, and Kenny G will know the outcome of this, but one of the things that is we're going to hear more of, we're hearing some of now, we're going to hear more of, is how scam artists are becoming more and more and more sophisticated in serious ways. I mean, so there is, I heard a term, if you think about software as a service, or, these are big things in the legit world. In the scammer world, it's malware as a service. So the mobs essentially can rent, global mobs, global, organized crime will rent this software, this very sophisticated software, to start scamming people. And, there's lots of people that are losing their bank accounts with very sophisticated AI-based scams. So for anybody that's listening to this, never, ever, ever, click on anything you ever get an email ever again, even if it looks right. Never launch an app, never put your credentials in anywhere that you didn't go first. I mean, so it's going to get, I think it's going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better. And I think it's going to get a whole lot worse for our utility infrastructure in the United States. I think there's just a bunch of weak areas, especially in the countries where there's a certain amount of freedom, the U.S., Europe, other places like that. I think there's a looming potential serious disaster along those lines.
Yeah, well, especially, I mean, going back to the Iran thing for a second, Trump talking about, Tuesday is going to be bridge and water treatment day, right, or whatever it was he said, right?
Right.
When he said that, one of the things that I thought was, okay, this is 4 months after I remember hearing about how archaic our energy grid is. Yes. And our water, like I live in Arizona, we get water from the Colorado River that is divided between us and California. And but the systems that do that are 40, 60 years old. I mean, they're not getting, it wouldn't take much of an AI trick to knock those things out. And you can do that from Iran, probably.
Well, and I think that's probably one of the most serious weaknesses and dangers that we have is the energy, because I mean, basically if the Colorado River dams are permanently shut, what happens? You're gonna, everybody in your neck of the world isn't gonna be able to have any drinking water. I mean, or
I got a swimming pool. I'll be okay for a few weeks.
Yeah, there you go. Or
the other thing I was thinking, when you're talking about that malware thing, one of the YouTube channels I like to watch, there's actually a couple of them. I like. I'm not a historian. I don't retain it well enough to speak well about it. But I really enjoy a lot of historical things. And one of the things I like especially is mafia history.
Mm-hmm.
And there's two guys that Sammy the Bull Gravano has a YouTube channel, and this guy Michael Franzese has a YouTube channel, both former made mafia guys. Mm-hmm. And when Giuliani went to town in the 80s, they kind of disappeared, right?
Right.
And it wouldn't surprise me if they don't have to be in public anymore. They can do this malware thing you're talking about, make boatloads of money, and not have to go out and have shoot 'em ups, and not have to go out and deal with the cops and the neighborhood and the whatever. That would totally make sense that they didn't They didn't go away. They just completely pivoted to more digital space.
Yeah, well, I don't think organized crime ever has or ever will go away. I mean, there's organized crime in throughout history, and there's always been that underclass, that would do that, and so yeah, and it would make perfect sense that with the power of these AI tools, and how sophisticated they're getting, that's so you counterbalance that with the surveillance state, and here we are caught in the middle between the two, and oh my gosh, what a fun time.
Yeah, no, interesting for sure. All right,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to wrap it up a little bit early today, but there's one more thing that we should probably mention. Trump rescheduled medical marijuana
Yes, I saw
from
that.
Schedule 1 to Schedule 3,
Yep.
and he did the thing with Joe Rogan there and at the White House where they rescheduled the
Ibogaine.
psychedelics. Yeah.
Yeah, Ibogaine
Um,
in particular. That one I know a fair amount about that. Yeah.
yeah. I honestly, especially the Ibogaine thing, the what is it? 22 soldiers a day commit suicide.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
22 retired soldiers a day commit suicide.
Yeah.
And the success rate of Ibogaine dealing with PTSD is like, it's like 87%. It's
Yeah,
a crazy number. I don't know the number.
it's so
It's
far.
a very high success rate.
Well, and we have nothing even close to it. We have nothing even close to it. So, I mean, so you take something that is, we've got talk therapy, we've got various, antipsychotics, but, but Ibogaine has had, and the weird thing to me, Brian, about that is nobody really, we don't understand why Ibogaine works like it does.
Right.
We just don't know. And it's like people have these experiences, these spiritual experiences, and these, sometimes they say that the experiences are amazing. Sometimes they are horrific, but people come back changed. I mean, just at the core as a result of that. So, I mean, so good on Trump.
Ibogaine the same as like ayahuasca? Are that all the same thing? Or are they different?
I'm not familiar with that one. No,
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe. I mean, it's essentially just, it's one of the mushroom, families, derivatives from mushroom family with cordyceps. I mean, we're learning a whole bunch about tons of different, mushroom nutrients, if you will. So, there's lion's mane. There's all these different ones that are fascinating. Yeah. Ibogaine is the one that got reclassified and allows now for research to take. The reason we don't know why these things work is because there hasn't been any research because it's
Schedule 1.
Yeah. Because it's been illegal. So I'm, and there's not many people, there's certain things that Trump did that only Trump could do. So only Trump could have done warp speed. So Project Warp Speed with he's the only person reclassifying Ibogaine, only person that could have done that. So there's a number of things that he's done that nobody else could have done. And for that reason, more power to him.
Yeah, I think I never really thought about that, but I think you're right. Like if Obama would have done it, the Tom Cottons of the world probably would have said, we can't be doing that. But
yep.
So it is the conservatives that probably would have fought that.
Yeah, exactly.
And, which again, just like we get so spun around the axle about things that, like you said, we don't understand how it works. All we know is it is working. Like, isn't it worth at least investigating? Like, come on. Like, again, this is like a 90-10 issue. Like,
yeah, especially since we don't have anything else that works and there's people dying and suffering, horrifically every single day. It should have been reclassified years ago. I mean, and the same things, I'm torn on marijuana in Washington state because since it was made legal in Washington state, we got all sorts of problems with drunk driving. Right. So that's bad. But on the flip side of that, medical uses for marijuana are well documented. It's well documented. Yeah. So, and let's not, I'm a Christian conservative. So, so it's like, let's not get spun out of whack on some of these things. Let's address them logically and with an eye towards human compassion.
Well, again, it kind of feels like what we were talking about earlier, where we just want things like, we just want to solve the problem and move on. Like that's our mentality, right?
Yeah.
Impulsive, and so when you look at like how Oregon did it, we're just gonna legalize everything and move on. Right? It was a complete disaster.
That didn't work.
You can't have people shooting heroin in the streets. Like that's not good.
Yeah.
And then you have on the other side, it's all bad. You can't have any of it. Like can we have like, I don't know, 10% nuance allowed?
Yeah, some nuance. That's exactly what I was going to say. You got to have some nuance about these things because it's very few things in life are completely cut and dry and black and white. I would love to
Right.
believe that they were. It would be wonderful if they were.
So much easier if it was that way.
It's
Yeah.
so much easier, but it's not. Nothing is black and very few things are black and white.
All right. Well, we'll do a show in the future where I'm on the medical marijuana and you could be on the ibogaine. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, that should be a fun one.
All right. Well, as Dave said in the beginning, if there's anything you think we got especially right or wrong, we'd love to hear about it in the comments. We're trying to explain to future generations what it's like to live in this chaotic time, as they undoubtedly are going to look back and wonder what the hell is wrong with all of us people. Led to all these events that have not quite transpired yet. You can do that. Give us your feedback at unsilentpodcast.com, or Rumble has a great comment section. Until next week, this is Dave and Brian signing off.
See you next week.
Do you want to be Unsilent? Make your voice heard on our social media channels and share where you think we got it right or wrong. Go to unsilentpodcast.com for social links so you can join the discussion.